Greetings, peeps of the interwebs, Jake here, and in this video I'm going to touch on how Doctor Strange has been officially confirmed to appear in Avengers Infinity War, which, granted, I think we all knew he would show up in some form or fashion, but it's still nice to get that official confirmation from Marvel that he will indeed show up in the Infinity War massive crossover. In this video I'm going to kind of talk about like how he not only fits into the Marvel Universe as an important character, and also Infinity War, because I don't think Marvel just made a movie about Doctor Strange for the sake of putting him into a movie. Don't get me wrong, I think that's probably part of it, because at this point Marvel can put whoever the hell they want in a movie and it'll work. I mean, look at Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, two movies that should not have worked, especially Guardians. On almost every level, that movie should not have worked, and yet that's one of their most successful movies, and what a lot of people regard as their favorite or their best movie. And even Ant-Man, a character who I never thought could hold his own movie, and lo and behold, it's a good movie. But the fact that they were able to, again, take these lesser-known characters, and be able to, put them into a movie, have them carry their own movies, and be successful is amazing. Especially for me, because I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan. I've loved him ever since the, I think he was in a 2, maybe 3 episode crossover in the 90s animated Spider-Man show. That was when I first saw him, and it was one of those things where I immediately was like, I like this dude. He's got all magic stuff. But anyways, so I think the main thing is Marvel are at the point now to where I feel like they can't just do these, event, or at least these Avenger movies, or even the solo movies where it's just the good guy versus the bad guy, and the bad guys, doing bad guy things for the sake of the script. Because let's face it, sadly, most Marvel villains are very shallow with very little depth or development, and they're kind of just the bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy, unfortunately. I think we're at that point to where Marvel have to, they've been having to change it up so that way it's not just, it doesn't feel very generic and, kind of predictable and cliche with, not so much the villains, but just the whole good guy versus the bad guy story. Like how Guardians introduced us as the audience to the cosmic realm of the Marvel Universe. That was the main purpose of that movie. And obviously if it was successful, which it was, that's just an added bonus. But the main point of that movie was just to introduce the audience to the cosmic realm, so that way we're more familiar with it once, again, Infinity War comes up. So that way it's not just out of left field where people are like, wait, what? They're fighting in space now? And Doctor Strange is going to do the same thing, except he's introducing several elements, actually. Definitely going to be focusing on the magic, since he is the Sorcerer Supreme. The extra-dimensional elements as well are all going to be added to the Marvel Universe now with Doctor Strange, which I think is an excellent idea and a fascinating idea. Because, at this point, Marvel can do whatever they want, and no matter how crazy or silly or outlandish it may sound, if you're not a comic book reader or familiar with comics and just how kind of crazy they can be, and kind of silly at times, at this point, in the movie universe, again, they're doing all this, and even casual moviegoers who, say 10 years ago, if Guardians of the Galaxy had come out, people would have been like, no, I'm not having this whatsoever. Or even, a movie like Suicide Squad on the DC side, that movie probably never would have happened 10 years ago. But thankfully, we're in this golden age of comic book movies and TV shows, and just this whole subgenre of culture that we're in, with, the comic movies and sci-fi and fantasy being, the social norm. That, again, all these movie studios, again, whether it be Marvel or Fox or, Warner Brothers, are able to take these chances, and, Doctor Strange is definitely, it's obviously going to be your typical Marvel movie in terms of, explaining who the character is, because I think they will, Doctor Strange does have one of the more interesting backstories and origins, so that's one of the few instances where I'm okay with an origin story. So I was kind of hoping Ant-Man would be the last origin story we get. But it makes sense that, anytime they do add a new character, they gotta at least touch a little bit on their origins. So I'm okay with it. And again, his backstory is actually very interesting and is very much shaped who he is as a character, and has shown his growth from kind of being an arrogant, cocky surgeon to being the Sorcerer Supreme. But again, the whole concept of Doctor Strange, the movie, going into the whole other dimensions, and alternate possibilities or whatever with these other dimensions, or pocket universes, and being able to introduce mysticism and magic, and it even looks like the movie will kind of have a bit of a horror feel to it, which I think is really cool. Because again, that's another thing that Marvel just been knocking it out of the park with their movies, is their superhero movies, but they also encompass other genres as well. Like, again, Guardians of the Galaxy was like a space opera, kind of like in the lines of something like Star Wars. Ant-Man was like a heist movie. Winter Soldier was spy espionage thriller. So that's one reason why Marvel have just continuously been doing so well with their movies, is they're not just a superhero movie, it's a superhero movie, with other genres mixed in, which is another reason why, I think all these other movie studios, whether it be Warner Brothers, with their DC movies, or Fox with their X-Men or Deadpool or whatever, I think kind of need to do a little bit of as well, where they tweak it a little bit, so it's still very much a superhero movie, but they add some other little flavors in there as well. But what's, in my opinion, what's the most important thing about Doctor Strange and going to these other dimensions is, I think that is the key in how he fits in with Infinity War. And there's also speculation that he holds one of the Infinity Gems. There's speculation on which gem it is, hard to say, but I'd be willing to bet that he does indeed have one of the Infinity Gems. Perhaps even unbeknownst to him, perhaps even in the eye of Agamotto. But the Russo brothers, who directed Winter Soldier and Civil War, and also going to direct the Infinity War movies, have even stated that they're going to use the Infinity Gauntlet storyline in the comics as kind of their main source of inspiration and the main storyboard for the films, which makes sense, and I think we all kind of knew more or less Infinity War be kind of like a loose adaptation of that. And again, it makes perfect sense. But in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, Doctor Strange is actually the one who gets the Avengers, the entire team of Avengers, to Thanos. Because Thanos is galaxies away in his domain doing what he does, whereas the Avengers are on Earth. And especially in the movie universe, the MCU, it's not like the Avengers just have a whole fleet of spaceships that can take them from Earth to where Thanos is at in a reasonable amount of time. Even with Stark Tech, it'd probably take several years or months, more than likely years though, to get from Earth to wherever Thanos is at. Whereas Doctor Strange and his nifty magical skills of being able to go through different dimensions and wormholes and all that stuff, he could easily just, kind of get them in on a circle and just be like, alright guys, bam, they're in Thanos' domain. So I think that's going to be his main point in the Infinity War storyline in the movies, is not to make him sound like an overglorified chauffeur, but I think that's his main purpose, and that's just so much easier in every form and fashion of storytelling to just have them teleport him there, more or less, rather than them hop in a spaceship and fly there. But also, again, Doctor Strange, when you also get into his, his powers and his skill sets and all that, he is absurdly powerful. And that's one of the reasons why Doctor Strange isn't a prominent, or hasn't been a prominent figure in a lot of the major comic events in Marvel in recent history. In the first Civil War, he set it out, and it was kind of a shame because I was really hoping he'd get involved. But whatever side he picked, they pretty much would have won, because again, he is absurdly powerful, and he has to restrain himself in a lot of cases. So he's probably one of the few Avengers who he may not be able to go toe to toe with Thanos, one on one, because Thanos is he's still on a completely different level than Doctor Strange, as powerful as Doctor Strange is. But he's one of the few who could stand a better chance of not dying immediately. Sorry, Hawkeye, Black Widow, characters like that. One hit from Thanos, they're pretty much dead. Thor could hold it, could kind of, hang in there as well, and really even like Captain America. Captain America is just at peak physical, in peak physical human condition. So he's got enhanced strength and endurance and stamina and all that stuff, but he's by no means, I would say, a metahuman, or even has superpowers like other characters. So I think that's another thing too, is he can kind of be playing defensive, even if he's not using crazy magical spells like launching fireballs and lightning bolts at Thanos. He can at least be protecting everyone with some kind of magical barrier or something. So that way, if characters Hawkeye gets hit, backhanded by Thanos, he's not just gonna burst or die instantaneously. He might get bruised up. But also another thing that I've been kind of considering is, once they defeat Thanos in Infinity War 2, or whatever they're going to call it, the next question is, who's the next big bad going to be after Thanos? Because there isn't a whole lot. There are several options, but I feel like there aren't a whole lot that Marvel can do unless they get the rights back to Fantastic Four. Then they can use Galactus, who would be great as the next big bad. And I think there might be some other characters, I think maybe Kang the Conqueror might be under Fox. Not 100% sure. But I think a character that could potentially equal Thanos in his own way would be one of Doctor Strange's most formidable and most powerful enemies, is Dormammu. So Dormammu is basically almost like a demonic king of his own realm, and basically he's in one of the most ancient beings outside of the cosmic entities in the Marvel universe. And again, he is incredibly powerful, not just in his own realm, the Shadow Realm or whatever you want to call it, but it even basically what makes Dormammu different from other prominent Marvel supervillains is that he's been shown to be fully capable of personally defeating cosmic entities, even without external power sources, and outside of the Dark Dimension, which is kind of his home domain, which is where he, gets most of his powers. That says a lot, because most of the cosmic entities in the Marvel Universe are very powerful, whether it be, again, someone like Thanos, or Galactus, the Watcher, characters like that, the Beyonder. All these characters are vastly powerful, with tons of insane powers and all that, and skill sets. So I think if someone like Dormammu could hold his own with a cosmic entity, whoever that may be, that could, he could potentially be a big threat for the Avengers. And there's a pretty good chance that we'll, if not see Dormammu, in some form or fashion in Doctor Strange, I would be willing to bet we'll at least hear mention of him. But even if we do get a little glimpse, kind of a a little cameo of Dormammu in Doctor Strange, would be amazing. And also, I think, depending on how Phase 4 goes after Infinity War, it could also be kind of cool to see them take on a character basically in another dimension, whereas Thanos will be the cosmic threat, and Dormammu will be the supernatural, other dimensional threat. Which, one thing that I did really like about the new TV spot of Doctor Strange, if you all have not watched it, go check that out. But there is a moment where I think Baron Mordo was talking to Doctor Strange, and he mentions how the Avengers are the ones who protect the kind of physical plane of existence of Earth. And then he says, we're the ones who protect Earth from the otherworldly, other dimensional threats. And that kind of, gave a little light bulb flip over my head, and kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video, where I was kind of like, ooh, maybe. Again, I could very easily be wrong. So don't even take this with a grain of salt. This is just me just not even speculating, but just throwing out the idea that Dormammu could be the next big bad of Phase 4. But yeah, I think that would be a really cool, kind of different direction to take this next phase. And again, even though Dormammu's predominantly a Doctor Strange villain, I still think he's a big enough villain to where he could take on the whole Avengers team and be able to hold his own no problem, and who knows, even overpower them until they all band together to whatever causes them to do their avenging to defeat Dormammu. But that pretty much wraps up this video. Again, I kind of just wanted to, again, throw out the idea of Dormammu maybe being a main antagonist, not just for Doctor Strange, but for the other Avengers. And also just kind of where Doctor Strange fits into, or where I think he'll fit into the Marvel Universe, the movie universe, not just with the solo film, but also going into Infinity War. So hopefully you all have enjoyed this, and if you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out here at the channel. And before I wrap this up, there's something that I've been considering doing just here recently is, so as I'm sure you all are aware if you've been following the channel, we do movie reviews on fairly current movies. We actually did one on Magnificent Seven if you all want to check that out. But usually our movie reviews are on whatever the most recent movie is that came out in theaters. So we don't really get to spotlight a whole lot of older movies, not even not just classics, but just movies even in the past 5 years that we obviously didn't have this channel up and running at that point, but movies that we think deserve to be reviewed, or I don't know, deserve spotlight or whatever, or that we would just like to talk more about, which we kind of do a little bit at the ending segments of our podcasts, where we'll kind of spotlight things that we recently experienced and kind of say what we thought about it. One thing that I'm thinking about doing is, I don't know, maybe a semi-regular thing, probably not a weekly, maybe a bi-weekly thing that I do on the channel, just whenever there's not any topics to do, podcast wise. But we're I'll watch an older movie, whether it be a classic or just a movie that I haven't seen that maybe people recommended to me on high regard, and I'll review them. Or some of the other members of Pasty Pill will all get together and kind of pick a movie that has been highly recommended to us, and we'll review it or something like that. So if you all would be interested in that, just leave your comments. And if not, that's totally fine as well. I'm just, again, throwing out ideas, just kind of trying out new content for the channel. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to mention. So be sure to like us on Facebook at Pasty Pill Productions, so we can get updates on what's coming up next on the channel, whether it be when a podcast is being uploaded, the topic of the podcast, or the next video. Just kind of news and updates and stuff like that, what's going on with the channel. Same thing with our Twitter at PastyPalePro. Pretty much same stuff, just news and updates when stuff's happening, getting uploaded and all that. And then, of course, you can follow me at my own personal Twitter page, at IrishmanJake, all one word, and see what I'm up to, whatever it is that I do in life. So, thanks everyone, and until next time, cheers.